Welcome to the Bold Lounge podcast. My name is Lee Burgess, and I will be your host. If you're anything like me, you love hearing inspiring stories of people who have gone on bold journeys and made a positive impact in the world. This podcast is all about those kinds of stories. Every week, we'll hear from someone who has taken a leap or embarked on an extraordinary journey. In addition to hearing their stories, we'll also learn about their bold growth mindset that they use to make things happen. Whether they faced challenges or doubts along the way, they persisted and ultimately achieved their goals. These impactful stories will leave you feeling motivated and inspired to pursue your own bold journey. I believe everyone has a bold story waiting to be freed. Tune in and get ready to be inspired. Welcome to the Bold Lounge. Today I have Kerry Kip, who's the owner and founder of Minot Candles. Welcome, Kerry.
Hi, Lee. Thanks so much for having me.
So I would love for you just to give a brief introduction to our listeners who may not know you, and then we'll jump into being bold.
Sure. So I'm Kerry. I'm the founder and CEO of Minot Candles, which was launched 3 years ago. I am married and have a Great Dane and a Maine Coon cat, and I live on the South Shore of Massachusetts.
Very cool. And I found Kerry when I was killing time in between meetings in Seaport in Boston and walked into a store that had her candles. And some of you have seen my LinkedIn posts around amplifying something that's awesome. And Kerry's candles are awesome. And we'll talk about the way they're made and how they're made and sustainability factor of that, which is important to so many of us. But that's how we happened to cross each other. And then I kind of stalked her and said, hey, would you be on this podcast? And she agreed. So I appreciate you coming on, not really knowing who the heck I was, but being open to having the conversation. So thank you very much.
Of course. And it's your community that you have has been so amazing. The outreach just from your LinkedIn post was really amazing. So love to be here.
Well, great. So we'll start. I think you know the drill. What do you think about being bold? What does bold look like for Kerry? Well, how would you define it?
So as a perfectionist, for better or worse, I think being bold for me is overcoming the fear of failure, is doing something that's scary and that's not the norm, because if it was the norm, it wouldn't be scary and you wouldn't even think twice about doing it. So for me, that was really launching my business. At the time, I didn't realize that I had this underlying fear, but it took me, I think, about 6 more months than it should have to launch. And it was just questioning every decision I had made up to that point. Would people like it? Would it be a success? Would people even buy my products? And so for me, I wasted about 6 months, but I learned a really valuable lesson.
Yeah, we'll talk about that lesson. I think it's definitely something a lot of people who are listening can relate to, right? The fear of failure, of trying something new, but pushing through it. And you push through it at your pace, don't judge yourself. That's the thing I would say to you is you feel like you wasted 6 months, but you probably learned a lot about yourself. And you probably know what you wouldn't do the next time you have one of those fear moments, I think for me, when that happens, and it definitely happened to me being an entrepreneur, I don't know if it happened to me as much on the corporate side, but I think corporate became very routine for me. Like I knew how to manage it. I knew when it would bubble up. I knew when we'd have a moment or not have a moment. But like being an entrepreneur, like there's some unknowns out there. So you work through some things, but you kind of go at your own pace. I think you're in a great space, and the growth that you've had in that period of time, you have a lot to be proud of. So don't be so hard on yourself, for sure.
Your own worst critic, right?
Yeah, exactly. So when's the first time you remember being bold? Would you say this is it, or would you say there were other times in before this big moment?
I mean, this was a big moment for me, but I do remember being a little bit strange and entrepreneurial when I was younger, always wanting to have a lemonade stand, even if, I would get one sale sitting for hours outside the driveway. But for me, like doing those things my whole life were strange to most people, but I really enjoyed them.
Yeah. Did you set out with an intention to do this, or what was your career path before this?
So I was in product management at a tech company and feeling really burnt out. My boyfriend at the time, now husband, really encouraged me to take a step back and think about what I wanted. So I took some time off and thought about, what did I want? I really wanted to work for myself, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was actually traveling with my husband in a hotel room by myself. And I finally felt like I had a second to breathe and think about what I wanted. I was getting into non-toxic living and really understanding what was in products. And I had totally eliminated candles from my life because most candles on the market have been equated to secondhand smoke. So I just switched to a diffuser when I wanted some scent in my home. But I really missed that ambiance of a candle. My mom always had candles going in our home growing up. So it gave me that sense of comfort and, calmness that I look for in a candle in my home. And so I started to research, how do I make a clean candle, and made them for myself, my friends and family. And my friends and family kept coming back to me for these. So I kind of thought maybe I have something here. Did a little bit of research on market size in the US and, the capital required to start something. And it kind of just exploded from there. My husband, we were on a work trip for my husband, and he came home from work and I was still in the hotel, and he looked at me like, "You left the hotel room all day?" And I had like this mad scientist look, and
Yeah.
no, I started launching, explaining to him my idea. That's how it all came about.
It's a big industry, right? The candle industry is big.
Yeah.
Like, how many billions or millions is it?
3 billion in the US alone.
Yeah, it's
And
insane.
that was 3 years ago, before everyone was at home a lot. So it's probably larger now.
So it's an incredible industry. And like, I think I grew up with candles too. My mom always had them on, and I have them. I don't know, like for me, it is about a calmness and a mental, like just exhale in a way. So that's how I look at candles, in the sense of that kind of the hominess and just feeling cozy and being able to have that in place. So when you thought about starting it, you had never done this before, right? Like, you were just doing it. You liked making candles. It was something that brought you joy.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. How does one learn how to make a candle?
I was in the depths of YouTube.
Okay.
Trying to figure it out. It was a lot of experimentation. I equate it to baking. You don't just get perfect cake on the first try. It takes many, iterations of saying, I like this, I don't like that, let's tweak it. And just a lot of testing of the product.
Yeah. Tell us a little about your ingredients and your wicks and all of that, because it is different than like a candle you'd buy at a store, or at some of the box companies that make candles as their mainstay.
Yeah. So everything is clean and non-toxic. So our wax is 100% soy wax. That's domestically sourced. So, it's coming from, it's not mixed in with any other ingredients like petroleum, which a lot of waxes have. Our wicks are 100% cotton. So that means that they're lead and zinc free. A lot of candles that come from Asia have the lead and zinc in them because it makes for a cheaper product. But burning lead and zinc, obviously, you're inhaling that. So that's not good. And then our oils are all made plant-based. So all of the fragrance is coming from plants. So there's no phthalates, parabens, or carcinogens in any of our products.
How many times have you said that? Like, you just like press play on that. So I think that's incredible about that. And I don't think we think about, like, I didn't think about it till I, learned a little bit more about your company and the candle itself. And, if you have a candle lit a couple of times a week and your family is in your home, like, you just said some of them were like secondhand smoke level. And I never thought about it like that. Like, I just thought, that's a wonderful smell. Or, people make things at a cheaper rate so they can probably manufacture more of them. And these are very decently priced candles. It's not like these are out of the norm of any other candle price. So I think getting all of those things with the soy wax, the cotton wick, and then the oils that are plant-based, I think you can't go wrong there from a health perspective. And then the sustainability factor of that, and being able to do what you're doing with it in the sense of the different scents too. So there's multiple scents there. So when you started out being a founder, and you said there was, pushing through the fear, what do you look back now and say, wow, really, that wasn't an issue, or, I shouldn't have been fearful of that? Is there anything that comes to mind in the sense of, like, you said 6 months you got held back or felt like you wasted? What was holding you back?
I blamed it on not having my trademark yet. So I was trying to get a trademark when the pandemic was going on. So there was also delays to get a trademark. But really, when I look back at it and reflect, I think that just the fear of trying to launch a business and then having to close it because no one's buying what you're trying to put out there was, for me, really scary and maybe embarrassing too. Just to have to say that I'm going to have to close this if it doesn't work, or if I I launch and I get no sales. So for me, I think it was those two things. And to spend so much time on something that I truly loved, and if it wasn't well received, I think that would have been really hard for me. And that's what I was really scared about.
Yeah. So kind of the success factor, wanting to be successful with the unknown of will they like it, and then the acceptance factor if it works well, and the acceptance factor if it doesn't, right? So what made you push through? How did you get to the point of like I'm doing it? Was there a moment? Was there micro moments? Kind of what helped you push through that?
So I have a friend that was helping me with the product photography for the first launch. And she was a teammate that I played lacrosse with in college. And she just said, okay, your photos are ready. When do you want to like set it live? Because she was also helping me with social media. And I was like, I'm not really sure. She's like, how about this date? And she just picked it. And I did her to do that for me. And she's like, you have everything ready, right? You're just waiting on me. I didn't know that I needed it, but looking back, I needed her to give me that little push.
So kind of just her picking date and you agreed. You're like,
Yes,
yep, I guess
I
that's
have
it.
no argument against that date.
Yeah. So what did you learn in your first 2 years? So you're about to celebrate your second year, and congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
What did you learn? Are there kind of moments like, man, I learned this, or you pour these by hand yourself, correct? Or do you have staff? Or tell us a little about the process and then the learnings.
Sure. So up until about 6 months ago, I poured almost every candle myself. During the holidays, my mom would help out sometimes in the beginning. But about 6 months ago, I made my leap and to hire someone part-time. She's a local woman that helps me. She's a local teacher. And at night and weekend, she helps me pour candles when she can. And a great help. And also another fear of hiring someone into your business when it's your baby. Very different. I used to hire and manage large teams in my previous corporate life, but it seems a lot scarier when it's your own business. That's been a huge help having her, and hopefully we'll add 2 more part-time people for this holiday season.
Okay. So they're all hand poured.
All hand poured though.
And I just think of like I'm very good at doing things, but not precisely. So
definitely a precision.
Yeah, you would not want to hire me.
Yeah.
Yeah, do not hire me, Kerry. But like thinking of that, just that in itself is just kind of incredible. Like another quality aspect of the product and the price point that it has is just incredible for people to understand that. So hand poured, and then all of the sustainability factors. It sounds like you learned you needed help.
Yeah.
And so that was helpful, but still scary. So another bold moment of kind of pushing through that. Any other key learnings about what it takes to run the business, or particularly anything about the industry you're in that were unexpected?
For me, I think there was 2 things that were big hurdles I did not expect. The first was people wanted me to be the face of the business. As an introvert, that was something that was very uncomfortable for me and really still is. But I've become much more comfortable about putting myself out there. I don't need to have makeup on to post a story on Instagram. Like, people just want to know who I am and what I'm doing behind the scenes. So once I got over that, that was helpful. And then the second was finding a graphic designer that really understood my vision. Unfortunately, I had to go through 3 to 4 different graphic designers before I found one that could put my vision to life. Being on the corporate side before, I had a team of graphic designers that worked for me, but there was always a brand guide. It was an established brand guide. And I could say, this doesn't fit in our brand guide whenever I had feedback, but there wasn't a brand guide yet. And so getting through that and working through that was a hurdle that I didn't realize would be so hard.
Yeah. It's like coming up with the fonts, the colors and prints and, things that then become your brand design.
Exactly.
That took a little longer than you expected.
Yes. Yep. I had about 3 different versions of the logo and label before we are where we are today.
And it's called Minot Candle. Can you tell us a little bit about the title and why you picked that?
Sure. So Minot Light is a lighthouse on the South Shore of Massachusetts. It's known as the most dangerous and romantic lighthouse because of where it's located, but also that it flashes 143 for I love you. And so I was engaged and married with Minot Light in the background. So it's both a beautiful symbol on the South Shore, but also really meaningful to me.
Yeah. Excellent. Love that story. Love the connectedness to personal moment. I think as we as entrepreneurs do things and figure things out and launch things, it's like that connectedness. For me, it feels like my personal and my professional are connected, like what I like doing or what I'm passionate about or what brings me joy. They're so much more connected now. And I think you can have this in the corporate setting too. But for me, it just wasn't it became disconnected. I think when I started out, it was there. I was like so passionate and wanting to make a difference. And I was really good at my job. But towards the end of my run in that world, it really had worn me out. It had, and it was feeling more like a battle every day versus a joy. And even though I was still good at what I was doing, it was hard to do it. But now it's not that it's not hard on certain days as an entrepreneur, but like I just feel like it's more intertwined. Would you say that too? Kind of you made the transition as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I was definitely really burnt out and, still good at my job, but just not happy with where I was at. And I'm working so much more now. You don't start a business to work less.
My husband will laugh at me. I was like, I just need to finish something up. He's like, okay, I'll see you in 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have the support and the patience of the people that support you and love you and, are patient with you. So like sometimes you definitely don't work less. So I think when you first start out, someone, I know my coach initially was like, how many hours do you want to work a week? And I was like, oh, definitely less than 40. I'd like to work 30, I think was on my original sheet. I was cleaning and could I do this purge in the fall of like just getting things out. And I was like, I found that. I was like, that's a laugh.
Yeah.
But I don't ever feel like I don't even count, honestly. Like I don't, I had a 60-hour week or I had an 80-hour, like I don't even count it. But I know it's definitely more than 30 hours.
Definitely.
So I don't know. It's that kind of, if you love it, it doesn't feel like a job type of moment, I guess, as well. So your candles now, like how does one, like you made the candle, can you just tell me kind of I know it's a process, but it's one that is hard to do. Like you get your product and then you have to figure out how to get it into stores, and you're actually international now. So like, tell me about that progression from start to now being in London and France and all these other places you named.
Yeah, sure. So I started with just a couple of stores on the South Shore, going in and saying, hey, do you want another candle brand?
Have you done sales before?
No, sales is not my forte.
How did that feel?
Awful. Awful. Very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it
pushed through it.
Yep. And it worked out. And those two stores still continue to have my candles, and people around here know that's where they can go when they just want to get one quickly. But the funny thing about the international stores that I first got, it's an independent department store. And I had been in that store before because my husband works in London. So we go to London a lot. They reached out to me via email, and I honestly thought it was a scam. I looked at the email address. I was like, this isn't real, because in my mind, when I was in that store, was like, I would love to be in this store.
Yeah.
But I didn't do anything about it because I didn't think it was possible. Them reaching out to me was like really eye-opening to me, and realizing that I can do these things. I am able to, and I need to have more confidence in my product and myself. And so from there, it's just kind of taken off. They've been a really good stepping stone, and they're really what looked at in the European markets for up and coming independent brands. So it was a great stepping stone for me.
So you knew of the store, you wanted to be in it, and they contacted you without you really making any inward sale or pitch to
Exactly.
them. So for you, it was like probably another one of those moments of like, wow, this is happening. And I need to accept it, right? Because I think sometimes, like you said, we're our worst critic, and we'll talk ourselves out of things, or we'll delay things because like, oh, but I need to, and then put in 3 more steps or whatever it may be. But sometimes it's like someone or something happens and you're like, no, I don't need to wait. And I'm going to trust that this is meant to happen, right? So to me, that would be like a tremendous, I think it's funny you thought it was spam or, some type of hack or whatever, but it was real. And so that was like sounds like a turning moment from a distribution standpoint, right?
Yep, absolutely. It definitely gave me confidence and more of the ability to just cold call. And, if I don't hear back or it's a no, like that's not a big deal right now, but maybe in the future, I'll be on the radar.
Yeah. Who do you think has been your biggest, like lots of supporters, right? But it sounds like your husband was probably the first person to encourage you, like you need to make a change, right? Like that he knew you weren't happy in the role that you were in.
Yeah, he definitely is my biggest supporter. And I think that if I didn't have his support, I would have never taken the leap either. My family is huge support. In the beginning, they could not understand it, but now.
But they encourage you, right? Yeah, that was the same for me. Like I was most worried about telling my mom that I had quit without a job.
Yeah.
And, that's really not recommended in my house. And so, but I was so pleasantly surprised that she said, well, I'm a little worried, but I know you can do it. And it was just like, I'm trying to get verklempt even saying it, but it was such a moment of like, she believes in me, so it's just very powerful. And like you had your mom actually working for you. And
for free.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. If my mom could help me, I know she would too. So like, it's just kind of cool to see that. But also you had someone encourage you and say, you can be happy. You can do something differently. And he saw the signs of like, you've got to do something different. So that's always nice to listen to those that are close to us when they're saying, you can try something and you don't have to take a huge leap. You can take the steps into it that you need to take. Because I think sometimes people just fear the change or think it has to be, oh, I've got to quit my job. No, you don't have to quit your job. Maybe just take a candle class on the weekend and see if you like it, or take that cooking class, or try, creating some logos for a friend or something like that, like the creative side of it, or if there's maybe some other things you'd like to do. Do you think if there's any advice you'd give to someone who wants to just try something?
I think your point is you don't have to go drastic, just test the waters. And nowadays with Instagram and social media, you could launch a business and do it part-time and see how it goes. For me, I just had to cut it off cold turkey so that I could really focus and figure out what I wanted to do, because I was so burnt out and so bogged down by my previous job. But like to your point, I think it's just dipping your toes in, trying different things, seeing what you like, and go from there, just taking baby steps. And unlike me, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to try things and see how it goes.
Yeah, sometimes our perfectionism and our imposter syndrome, they like meet, and it's just not
a good match.
And then it becomes a delay, And that's the thing that I think for me, like I had never felt imposter syndrome until I became an entrepreneur. And I was like, I don't know this world. Like, I'm not an entrepreneur, but I had entrepreneurial spirit all my life. Like, I just had it, but didn't know that's really what it was. It's probably what got me in trouble in the corporate world, honestly. I think it's really important just for people to hear that message of just, start small, but take that step, but just begin, And I think that's the hardest part, is just the beginning part. So wonderful to meet you. All the information about Kerry and her company is below, and a discount code if you'd like to order some candles. And with everything going on, I think everybody needs a candle just for multiple reasons, but anything just to kind of reset and to feel cozy and in a good state. So check everything out about Minot Candles in Kerry's world. Thank you so much, Kerry.
Thanks for having me. It's so nice to talk.
Thank you for listening to the Bold Lounge podcast. Through the continuum of bold stories, vulnerability to taking a leap, you will meet more extraordinary people making a positive impact for others through their unique and important story. By highlighting these stories, we hope to inspire others and share the journey of those with a bold mindset. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast and look forward to sharing the next bold journey with you.